Good evening, Internet. It's Thursday. I just got back from drinking in town with some friends, which is something that I do every Thursday night at a particular bar with a particular group of friends. And tonight we got on to a particular topic of conversation, which led to an interesting discussion, and I thought I would share the main points of that with you guys, because I thought it was quite sort of relevant and quite pertinent. So yeah, the topic of discussion was basically what makes an introvert, what makes an extrovert, and where does social anxiety come into play with that. So I think basically what an introvert is, or in my understanding of what an introvert is that an introvert is somebody who feels depleted by social interaction, doesn't necessarily dislike social interaction, but feels depleted by it. And therefore when they have large amounts of social interaction, have to then follow that up by spending time alone to recuperate, to bring their energy levels back up. Whereas on the other hand, an extrovert to me is someone who is quite the opposite. When they spend that time alone, they feel quite depleted and low on energy. But when you put them in a social situation, they feel quite energized by having large amounts of social interaction. So that's sort of the fundamental differences in my mind for what an introvert is and what an extrovert is. And I feel like a lot of people who have social anxiety like to label themselves as introverts when they're not necessarily introverts, which I think happens because people who have social anxiety are typically fearful of being in social situations, particularly around people that they don't know, typically like being in public or being at a party with a group of people that they're not familiar with. But I think there are a lot of extroverts in that category who are scared of uncontrollable situations in groups of people that they don't know or are unfamiliar with, that actually do require social interaction to feel energized. It's just they prefer that social interaction to come in a much more comfortable setting. Myself being one of those people, I don't typically like to go along to things where there are large groups of people that I don't know. At least beforehand, I get quite fearful of that. And then when I show up there, I find it quite easy to strike up a conversation with someone, and then I feel quite energized for having been in that situation. So I feel like that's where social anxiety comes in. It's more a fear of being around people, sort of an irrational fear of a situation that you can't control. It's much easier to control a situation where you know you're going to be hanging out with people you know, because you sort of know them, you know what to expect from them, and you know the sort of topics of conversation that are going to come up. So it's much easier as a socially anxious person to hang out with people that you know, but I don't think that makes you by default an introvert, because I think, you know, like myself, I know that I am quite energized by social interaction, and when I spend more time than necessary alone, I feel quite depleted by that. So social anxiety, I think, is quite often used as an excuse for being introvertive, but I think extroverts quite often use it as an excuse for being introverted and make themselves quite unhappy. So yeah, those are my thoughts on introverts, extroverts, and how social anxiety comes into play with introvertism and extrovertism. If any of you guys have any alternative thoughts or want to add to the discussion at all, that would be fantastic. I feel like this is a topic of conversation that could be explored a little bit further. Obviously I've only got my thoughts on it and would like to have the opportunity to expand upon that through discussion. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. Other than that, thanks for watching Loxblog. I'll see you when I see you.